Johnny's in heaven right now looking down on us, and we're going to tell a story right now about what happened to him and Abby Lutz, his girlfriend, when they went on vacation back in June of 2023. About 2.5 hours after they arrived, Johnny and Abby both got violently ill with headaches, nausea, vomiting, etc., and it just progressively got worse over the hours that they were there. So finally, Johnny called and said he was going to go to the emergency room there in town, a small clinic. When he arrived, he thought he had food poisoning. So he had told the doctor that. And so they spent several hours at the emergency room clinic. I believe both Abby and Johnny received IV treatments, etc. And because they were out of their suite, they were feeling better. So Johnny called and asked for an extra night. They got to the clinic and they got the extra night. And then my family and I were just going crazy, wondering what was going on. We lost contact with them. I called the airlines, etc. And no, we didn't hear anything until my daughter called the consulate in Mexico that night and was informed that John Heathco and Abby Lutz were found dead in their room at this 5-star resort. After doing a lot of investigating over the next several months, we found out a lot of interesting things that had occurred. 6 months prior to my son staying in this suite, there were many complaints by staff and people staying at the resort about feeling sick, and nothing was done about it. The real kicker was 1 week before my son and Abby were in that room, room 201, we like to call it. Another couple was in the same room. The only thing that saved their lives was their friends came to get them to go to dinner and found them unconscious in their room. And they rushed them to the hospital where they were told they had heat stroke. We've been in contact with them, and they're convinced that they're both damaged from carbon monoxide exposure. In addition to that, the 2 paramedics that went into my son's room, when they found him dead, they went in to retrieve the bodies. They were warned to get out of the room immediately. Once they walked in, you could actually feel the carbon monoxide. You can't smell it or taste it, but you could feel it. It was so thick in there. Both those young kids, they were the children of the man that owned the ambulance down in Mexico. These were his 2 kids, and both of them are now, they've started GoFundMe pages to try to get the money they're going to need for treatment that they're going to require over the next several years, because once you've been damaged by carbon monoxide, it doesn't get better. So my family, we looked and tried to figure out what we were going to do, and for my wife and I, it was simple. In the twilight of our lives, we're going to dedicate our lives to ending carbon monoxide tragedies. When we found out how often this happens to people, and when we found out what can happen even if you're exposed and not killed by it, it's just awful. And we started a foundation to try to end these carbon monoxide tragedies called the John Wesley Heathco Foundation. Our core pillars, what we're focusing on, education, awareness, especially for travelers, so that something like what happened to Johnny and Abby doesn't happen to anybody else. A big part of it is learning about carbon monoxide and taking those alarms with you wherever you go. We're also looking at advancement in innovative technology. We hope to be unveiling a new water bottle that's going to have a carbon monoxide detector in the lid of the water bottle. We hope to be looking into that a little bit more. In fact, my wife and I are going up to Cal Poly, where my son went to school, to look at the prototype this week. And the final pillar that we have is advocacy, engaging with policymakers and regulators. And a little bit of good news came earlier this week that we now have a Republican congresswoman on the bill now. There's been a bill that's been introduced, the Safe Stay Act, for the 3rd time, and this is the first time there's going to be a Republican on board. So we're hoping that we can get a law passed that's a federal law. Only 14 states now require these alarms in rooms where people sleep. We're hoping that this Safe Stay Act can be passed and we can get all 50 states mandated that all hotels, VRBOs, and lodging facilities have CO alarms in every room. Um, I don't know what else really to say other than it's such an emotional ride that my family's on right now, and we just want to prevent this from ever happening to any other family. It's been so hard on us, but we find joy in knowing that we're going to save lives by doing this, because I think Johnny, looking down on us from heaven right now, is telling Jill and I and our family to try and stop these needless deaths and tragedies from occurring around the world. Thank you for listening.